Welcome to Wesley Employment Services Training Workshops, providing support every step of the way in partnership with Employment Ontario. In this workshop, we'll be covering interviews. By the end of this workshop, you will have learned what the purpose of an interview is, 5 interview styles, 4 interview types, when an interview begins, and telephone interview tips. Interview preparation. An interviewer's wish list. Some interview tips, including do's and don'ts. Interview questions and strategies. Additional interview questions to prepare for. Behavior-based interview questions and the acronym S.T.A.R. as it relates to interviews. Interview questions you don't have to answer. Questions you might ask your interviewer. A post-interview checklist. And post-interview closing strategies, as well as some common interview mistakes. There are a few purposes to an interview. Interviews are a way for employers to meet candidates face-to-face to validate that what you cited on your resume cover letter is true. Interviews allow you to be aware of the employer's needs and establish a positive rapport with the employer's staff in charge of hiring. Interviews are an opportunity for you to shine and to make a great first impression. Interviews give you a chance to convince an employer that you are the correct individual for the job by discussing experiences, abilities, and skills. Interviews are also an opportunity for you to seek more information on the position and the company to see whether you would like to work at the environment and possible responsibilities, etc. There are 5 interview styles that you can prepare to adapt to. A one-on-one interview where one employer conducts an interview with one candidate. A panel interview where 2 or more employers conduct an interview. A group interview where 2 or more employers will interview a group of candidates at one time. A social interview which takes place in a restaurant, cafe, or social setting. Telephone interview, which takes place over the phone and may act as either an initial screening interview or an actual full interview. There are 4 interview types that you may experience. 1. Traditional interviews where common interviewing questions are asked relating to the job description to determine if the candidate can do the job and will be a good fit in the organization. Example questions. Why do you want to work for this company? Why do you feel you are qualified for this position? Behavioral/situational interviews. As opposed to a candidate's credentials, this type of interview attempts to determine the candidate's behavioral tendencies and emotional intelligence. Situational-based questions are used to determine the candidate's past and potential behaviors in relation to the situation in the workplace or in a what-if situation. Example questions. Tell me when blank. How would you deal with blank? Tell me a story of how you blank. Performance interviews are interviews in which candidates undergo some sort of actual testing. Example tests. Software testing, typing speed test, text for dexterity. Combination interviews combine all 3 of the previously mentioned types of interviews. It may surprise you to know when the interview begins. The interview begins when the employer calls you. Essentially, the interview begins before you meet the employer. Rather, it begins upon first contact, whether by phone or by email, because the first contact you have with an employer leaves them with their first impression of you. After handing in your cover letter, resume, and/or application form, you will hopefully receive a call from an employer in charge of hiring. At that point, the interview begins. When you are called for an interview, you should speak clearly and be polite, write everything down even if you are 100% positive on the details, location, etc., not agree to an interview date that you know you cannot make or that you will have to reschedule. You should also listen carefully. Questions to ask when called for an interview include: what is the time and date of the interview? Who exactly am I meeting? What is that person's position? What exactly is the address? May I please have your phone number in case I need to reach you? Are there any additional items you need me to bring to the interview? After you receive a call for the interview, visit the place of employment before the interview. It gives you a chance to find out about the customers, services, etc. A visit gives you an idea of the route to take and the time it will take to reach that interview location. Practice. Prepare a question sheet and practice answering the questions with someone you feel comfortable with before the interview. Ensure you have an answer for all items on your resume, cover letter, and application form. Review the contents of your resume, skills, relevant experience, etc., the job description you applied for, and the company's history, mandate, etc., the potential burdens, starting salaries, number of years experience needed, etc. Bring the following: the correct address and phone number of the interviewer, 2 or 3 copies of your resume, references on a separate sheet of paper, and a pen. Employers will typically use telephone interviews to recruit candidates for their jobs. They are a great screening tool for employers who are trying to minimize and narrow down the number of applicants that have applied for the position. A telephone interview can come at any time, so be prepared. This is your first impression. Here are some tips for telephone interviews. Be prepared. Have a copy of your resume handy. Tape it to the wall next to the phone on your desk. Keep a short list of accomplishments available for review. Keep a pen or pencil and a piece of paper handy for taking notes. Turn off call waiting to deter interruptions upon the conversation. In inconvenient times when you really are unable to speak, apologize and request a call back at a better time. Clear the room. Turn off stereo, TV, evict the kids, pets, and close the door. During the call, do not chew gum, drink, eat, or smoke. Keep your mouth moist by having a glass of water handy if possible. Do not interrupt the interviewer. Give short answers. A positive image to the listener, and it changes the tone of your voice. Keep this goal in mind. To set up a face-to-face interview, ask to meet face-to-face before the call is over. Thank the interviewer. Ask for the email address of the interviewer to send you a thank you email. Now, let's talk about interview preparation. After studying the job description and your resume, make a 2-sided list. On the left, list the position requirements, and on the right, list what skills you have to match up with the position requirements. This chart is tremendously helpful when preparing for an interview. Research the company. Educate yourself on the company and its goals, philosophy, services, history, management styles, products, workplace culture, and potential future growth. Study the job description. Know the job title, skills mandatory for the job, possible challenges, salary level, and tasks important to the job. Study your resume. Know what is on your resume top to bottom, and be prepared to discuss each part confidently, including soft and hard skills, transferable skills, accomplishments, qualification, and attributes. Consider vital interview questions to remember. Why do you want to work here? Why should we hire you? What are your strengths, weaknesses, accomplishments? What abilities and skills can you bring to the job? Have you done this kind of work before? What kind of person are you? Describe a situation, task, action, result. The S.T.A.R acronym. We'll talk more about this later. What are your salary expectations? Do you have any questions? Write out potential interview questions and your answers. Have someone you are comfortable with role-play the interviewer and do a mock interview with them. Take time to practice by yourself by asking yourself the potential interview questions. Then listen to and evaluate your answers. After hearing your responses, look at what you may be able to improve on. Mock interview exercise. Pretend to be preparing for an interview by making up a job you applied for and answer the following questions as best you can. How did you hear about the job? What can you tell me about our company? Tell me why you're interested in this job. Why did you want to work here? Tell me about your work experience. Tell me about a difficult situation on the job. I see here you haven't been working for the past few years. What have you been doing? How do you find working with your supervisor? Tell me about your worst job. Tell me about your favorite job. What is your greatest strength and weakness? Do you have any questions? A typical interviewer will want to satisfy answers to this wish list. Will you fit the culture of the company? Are you selling yourself, skills, and abilities? Will you be an asset to the company? Are you motivated and interested to work with the company? What will you contribute to the company? How do you compare to other candidates? How do you show enthusiasm for the job? Is your personality a good fit? Other key things to consider in an interview. Do you have a professional and firm handshake? Did you dress professionally? Do you maintain respectful eye contact? Do you project positive body language? How is your tone of voice and posture? Tips on things you should do in an interview. Relax and breathe. Be yourself. Smile. Speak with conviction and confidence. Make your point. Choose appropriate apparel. Double check your appearance. Assess your personal hygiene. Arrive 15 minutes in advance. Be friendly and courteous to every single person you meet. Watch your body language. Listen before answering interview questions. Bring a minimum of 3 hard copies of your resume, cover letter, references, and a pen and pad of paper to take notes. Licenses, certificates, diplomas, samples of work if possible. List of job-related questions to ask the interviewer. Double-check directions and location. Thank the interviewer. Send a thank you email after the interview. Call your references to notify them that they might receive a call from your new potential employer. Tips on things you should not do in an interview. Don't panic. Remember, you are only human. Don't arrive late. Don't wear extreme facial piercings or lots of jewelry. Don't chew gum. Don't make negative comments about past employers. Don't be soft-spoken, as it shows a lack of confidence. Don't act as though you would take any job or that you are desperate for employment. Don't lie. Answer questions truthfully. Don't rely on your resume to sell you. Sell yourself in the interview. Now we'll move on to interview questions and strategies. For the question, why do you want to work here? The interviewer is seeing if you know about and like the company. Determining if your qualifications fit the culture of the company and requirements. Gauging your genuine interest in the company. Your strategy is detail what you know about the company. Compliment the company on reputation, service, product, location, growth, etc. Reveal your passion for the work and how your skills match the requirements. For the question, why do you think you're qualified for this job? The interviewer is seeing how your skills, abilities, and employment experience apply to the job description. Determining if you have a full understanding of the job description and how you see yourself as a fit. Your strategy is provide information beyond what the interviewer has learned about you already. Have an understanding of the skills, knowledge, attributes, and abilities required for the job and consider the best matches you can make. For the question, would you tell me about yourself? The interviewer is seeing the kind of person you are as an employee, not you at home. Determining what your career goals might be. Gauging if your work experiences are a fit for the job. Your strategy is avoid giving your life story. Mention 2 or 3 things you want the interviewer to know. Sell yourself. Speak on your qualifications, attributes, and skills. For the question, what are your strengths or weaknesses? The interviewer is seeing if your strengths can match the job. Determining if you have confidence in your ability to do the job. Gauging whether your weaknesses will affect your job performance. Your strategy is emphasize your specialty skills and don't undersell yourself. Indicate that you are working on the weaknesses mentioned. Be upfront if you feel you have no weaknesses that will affect your work. For the question, would you tell me an example of how you were able to meet a deadline? The interviewer is seeing how well you can manage your time. Determining if you are an employee who is able to meet deadlines. Engaging whether you work well under pressure. Your strategy is assure the interviewer that you are consistent in meeting deadlines. Give a true example of meeting a deadline. Explain strategies you use when working under pressure. For the question, what are your salary expectations? The interviewer is seeing what you expect salary-wise for the job posting. Determining if you have done your research on the position. Your strategy is research the current salary range or hourly wage for the job. Talk about salaries and ranges. Don't sell yourself short. Don't overprice yourself. Let them know that the salary is negotiable. Here are some additional interview questions you may be asked. Why should I hire you over someone else? How would your friends describe you? Tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult coworker and how you handled it. What causes you to lose your temper? What is the hardest thing about being a leader? What is the most important thing that you have learned from your past work experiences that you can bring to this job? Have you had to make any judgment calls? What type of recognition do you require? Describe a time when you were involved in a team project and what teamwork skills you had to apply. Describe a time when you were less pleased with your performance. What do you do when things at work are slow? What has been the most useful criticism you have received? Define teamwork. What do the words success and failure mean to you? What would you like to have done more at your last job? Describe a time when you were forced to make an unpopular decision. What is the most difficult situation you have had to face, and how did you handle it? What do you look for in a manager? Interviews sometimes include behavioral-based questions, and for those questions, it's best to remember the acronym S.T.A.R. S-T-A.R. S. Describe a situation you were in that needed to be resolved. T. Describe the task, dilemma, or issue and what needed to be done. A. Describe the action you took, what tools you used, and what you did. R. Explain the end result of your actions through accomplishments, recognition, savings, etc. There are questions you don't have to answer, and employers are not allowed to ask questions related to race and color, Prohibited questions are inquiries which elicit information about physical characteristics such as color of eyes, hair, height, weight, or requests for photographs. Creed or religion. Prohibited questions are inquiries regarding religious affiliation, churches attended, religious holidays, customs observed, and willingness to work on a specific day which may conflict with the requirements of a particular faith, for example, Saturday or Sunday. Nationality, place of origin, citizenship, and ethnic origin. Prohibited questions are inquiries about Canadian citizenship, landed immigrant status, permanent residency, requests for social insurance number, memberships in organizations, name and location of schools attended, and please note that a social insurance number may contain information about an applicant's citizenship status or place of origin. A social insurance number may be requested following a conditional offer of employment. A permissible question could be, are you legally entitled to work in Canada? Gender and sexual orientation. Prohibited questions are categories on an application form or inquiries such as maiden or birth name, Mr., Mrs., Miss, Ms., information about a spouse, for example, is spouse willing to transfer, relationship with the person to be notified in case of emergency, or insurance beneficiary. Marital and family status. Prohibited questions are categories on application forms or inquiries such as married, divorced, common law relationship, single or separated, maiden or birth name, Mr., Mrs., Ms., Miss, children or dependents, child care arrangements, information about spouse, for example, is spouse willing to transfer, second income, relationship with person to be notified in case of emergency, or insurance beneficiary. Record of offenses or criminal record or military service. Prohibited questions are inquiries as to whether an applicant has ever been convicted of any offense, has ever spent time in jail, has ever been convicted under a provincial statute, for example, the Highway Traffic Act, or been convicted of an offense for which a pardon has been granted. A permissible question would be, have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense for which a pardon has not been granted? Age. Prohibited questions are related to age, date of birth, requests for birth or baptismal records, driver's license, or educational transcripts which may indicate age are prohibited. A permissible question could be, are you 18 years of age or older and less than 65 years of age? Disabilities, health, and physical abilities. Prohibited questions include inquiries about health, handicaps, illnesses, mental disorders, physical or intellectual impairment, medical history, learning disability, injuries or workers' compensation claims, medication, membership in medical or patient associations, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, requirements that applicants undergo pre-employment medical examinations, or an indication of eligibility or for possession of a valid driver's license. Inappropriate questions that you don't have to answer during an interview may be, do you have children? What is your age? What is your citizenship? What is your weight? What is your financial status or credit rating? Do you have any debts? What is your family status? Do you believe in God? Where do you go to church? Do you drink alcohol? What do you do on the weekends? What religious holidays do you observe? What is your race? Have you ever been arrested? There are questions that you can ask the interviewer. Present yourself as interested in the position by asking the interviewer quality questions relevant to the company and job, such as, what skills and experiences would make an ideal candidate for this position and the culture of this workplace? What is the largest problem facing your staff? What have you enjoyed most about working here? What constitutes success at this position? Do you offer continuing education and professional training? Can you tell me about the team I would be working with? What can you tell me about the new products or plans for growth? Who previously held this position? These questions show interest in the position and what is expected in this role, as well as long-term thinking about the organization. What is a typical day like in this position? What is the most challenging aspect of this job? What opportunities for career growth are there within this organization? Always have questions for your interviewer. What would your staff say about you or your leadership style? What hesitations and reservations do you have about my skills and qualifications? You have to be prepared to get a response that you do not necessarily want to hear, but asking at that time gives you the opportunity to clarify any concerns that the employer might have. What is your next step? Will there be another interview? When do you expect to have a decision? An interview is a dialogue. May I please have your business card? If you met with more than one person, ask for all of their cards. If cards are not available, ensure that you have the correct spelling of their names. One way to confirm the correct spelling of names is to speak to the receptionist at the company. You will need the correct spelling of the interviewer's names, as you should send a thank you note or letter within 48 hours of your interview. Please review this information about things you wished you knew before a job interview. A post-interview checklist can help you improve your interview skills. The checklist can include the following questions. Was I on time? Was I dressed appropriately? Did I deliver a firm handshake? Did I maintain solid eye contact? Did I smile? Was I positive? Was I honest? Did I come across as genuine? Did I answer all the questions to the best of my ability? Did I speak with conviction and confidence? How was my body language? Where did I get stumped the most? Where can I improve? Post-interview closing strategies are: ask for the email address of the employer that interviewed you and the email of the manager you could possibly be working under. Send both managers thank you emails, thanking them for the interview you have just completed. Also, express your excitement regarding any potential outcome of the interview. It might seem assumptive, but this shows the employer that you are sincere about the position and that you have respect for any decision they make. Common interview mistakes include failing to do your homework, forgetting your manners, apologizing unnecessarily, failing to explain what you will bring to the company, using yes or no answers, complaining about your current or former employer, a bad or weak handshake, asking no questions, making up answers or lying, showing off or over self-promotion. Wesley Employment Services offer a wide range of employment support, resources, training, and support for youth and adults seeking employment, pre-employment training, and one-on-one career counseling, job preparedness workshops, and fully equipped employment resource center. Wesley Employment Services contact information is 151 Queen Street North, Hamilton, Ontario. Phone at 289-396-5864. Fax at 289-396-0440. Email at employment.services@wesley.ca. Website, wesley.ca. Find us on social media. Wesley. Support every step of the way.